Alright. Should be working. Okay, so this all starts with a question here by XXDion, also known by another few usernames. I'll get to that though. Can I push to X rank with 2.1 PPS? Short answer, yes. Long answer, it's complicated. So let's get right into that. People who have gotten to X ranks with 2 or less than 2 PPS. There have been multiple people in the history of Tetrio that have gotten to X rank with 2 or less PPS. Pieces per second, by the way, for those who don't know. I don't recommend for lower ranked players to watch this video. If you want to, you can, but you might not understand a lot of the terms that are going to be used in this. Anyways, let's get to it. I will now go to the first player who I'd like to mention, which would be 1.5. 1.5 is an interesting one. Player from Korea who had 1.58 PPS. I say had past tense because this is not currently his stats. Right now, I'm not sure what happened to his account. You try doing like Teto with the bot command on Discord for whoever knows that. It does not show his profile, so I'm uncertain of who or what happened. It could be he changed his username. That's a possibility. Or that he deleted his account. I don't know. He definitely wasn't banned because you search 1.5 and it just shows nothing. Player not found. Anyways, I haven't seen his 40 lines, but you can see that his speed is genuine. He has a 44-second 40 lines, and his account is around 2 years old, meaning at the time, he was going legitimately at this speed. And he had 66 APM, 1.58 PPS, and 164 APM. 164 VS. Now, 1.5 PPS is very low for X rank. Usually you see people are at about like 1.8, 1.9 to 2.1, etc. But 1.5 is lower than the average, and there are multiple players who have been at this, and this is just for the lone sake of explaining that it's a possibility to get to this point even with lower speed. And now the thing about his speed is, what I'd like to mention, he got X rank kind of on accident. I wouldn't really say on accident, because look, X rank is X rank. Unless everyone forfeits against you and you got there, you got there by skill. And I'll get into that right now, what I mean by accident. So here, Mega Trash Tetrio player, which I forgot, he goes by another username, he did Teto 1.5, and then he asked, how does this work? Because he didn't really understand how this happened. And Ivan then said plonking. All their wins in their last 10 TL games right now are against 24.2k up to 24.6k players, meaning they haven't faced any X ranks. I think at the time, X rank was 24.6, but I'm not certain about that, so I can't really say. They took 5-7 against the 24.8. Now, 5-7 against the 24.8 is huge, okay? Now, he might have been faster in that, I don't know, but 5-7 is really good, okay? Like, really, really good. And he was, I would say, if he got a 5-7 against the 24.8k, he is definitely capable of the skill of somebody who is around X rank, even with his speed. It may be true that he faced only Eurex to get there, but if he managed to get 5-7 against the 24.8k, he should be able to be capable of getting X rank. Anyways, onto the next image, which I believe is Hui. I was thinking it was Gabe. Anyways, Hui is a snail. I'm not going to talk about snails because that's unrelated to this video. The thing about Hui is he has a very specific playstyle and playstyle combination. He was good at plonking and inf-DSing. Hold on. Advertisement. He's good at plonking and inf-DSing. I'll get into playstyles later, not important right now. But the thing about Hui mainly is you can see by his VS APM is very high. What, 60 plus 60, 120, and it's all the way at 157. Now, keep in mind there's 63, but even so, it's really high. Okay? And that means he downstacks a lot. So, out of plunking and inf-DSing, he inf-DSes more than he plunks. And that's very important to remember. Because people who plunk more than people who inf-DS more than they plunk tend to be either good at downstacking, or they cancel with their downstacking. I believe with Hui it's a little combination of both, but I'll get into playstyles after. On to the next panel. Gabe Lewis. Now the thing about Gabe Lewis is I would say he was very special when he got to X rank. Even now, nothing has changed. He is still special. He has 1.4 PPS in this screenshot. Now, do keep in mind this was like, I don't know, 2 years ago. And he has 1.4 PPS in this screenshot. The thing about Gabe, okay, the thing about Gabe is he is incredible at downstacking. I have played against him multiple times, be it a friendly or in Tetra League, and trust me when I say, his downstacking is phenomenal. Downstacking vision, combo vision, all that, insane. But he barely plonks. I'm serious when I say he barely plonks. I've played against him, and I don't see him time often. Every once in a while, he's in a position where he doesn't do anything, and he stops. Either that's out of being slow or actually plonking, and I think it's plonking, but it's not common that Gabe plonks. Like, not common at all. As you can see in the screenshot, his 40 lines is 37 seconds, so he is capable of some speed to an extent. 37, you need like, I don't know what, 2.5 PPS. I don't keep track of 40 lines time specifically. But, yeah, 37, you definitely need some speed to get to that point. And he is, and by it being 37, that means he's capable of more than 2 PPS, but he chooses to play at 1.4. Would that be considered trolling? No, not really, because he is a very good downstacker. As you can see in what I said in the text button below, very pro downstacker, top 50 worldwide. There is a website, but currently it's down. There might be one in the future, but as of right now, there is no website that has the leaderboard for cheese racers, racists, a troll face. Anyways, yeah, nothing about that, but I can tell you that when I was on the website, he had around like 210, around like, you know, a 210 is very good, by the way. Let me just say the average player in like higher ranks, U rank or so, maybe X rank if you want to like low X, would be 300, 280, at best 250, but Gabe has a 210, and I think at the time he had like a 220, but now he has a 210. I think right now actually he has a 206, but during the screenshot, I think his PB was 210. He has very good downstack. Now the thing is, you can see by his profile picture that he was a snail. He used to be. After I made the snail gang, he decided to leave it. I don't know what is about that, but don't worry, we're on good terms. But anyways, unrelated, on to the next screenshot. Me, Jesse, I want to troll someone. Jesse. Anyways, this is me. Now, I got there to X rank, around like in a little mid-low X rank by trolling. Now, here's the thing about trolling. It is not legit, okay? There were no forfeits. Some people have like fake stats because of forfeits, okay? Some people, they have like I don't know, 100 APM set, and then just forfeit the rest of their games. And what happens when you forfeit your games is, if they're all 0 APM, 0 PPS, the PPS will lower the stat because you have to drop a piece, but you don't have to attack. So the moment that you don't attack and you have to drop a piece, you're raising your PPS, but your APM stays 0. And as long as the stat is 0, it can't multiply, because, you know, anything times 0 just... wait, no. Yeah, becomes... I don't think it's actually multiplication. Anyways, people who forfeit games can get illegitimate stats because the 0 doesn't change the APM. Because if you times 0, yeah, I think it's times, it becomes 0. And that doesn't really work. Or else APM would be 0 if you make one forfeit. So, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Anyways, what happened here with me is I didn't forfeit at all. No forfeits, no opponent forfeits either, because that can also cause that. If like you didn't place anything and your opponent forfeited like the really start of the game. But what I did do is I stalled, and this is considered trolling, definitely trolling. Like if somebody were to send me like a large amount of attack and I was right at the start of the game, because like if you go on for about 2 minutes and you start stalling then, your PPS will very gradually go slow down. But if you pause it like the start of the game, like 30 seconds or 20 seconds in, you can slow it down by like a whole 0.5 PPS or 1 PPS. And that's pretty big. So what I did is a lot of stalling, and I managed to do this. Now I'd like to say, if I were to play legitimately here without like barely stalling or no stalling at all, the rank would be around the same, but the PPS would be higher, and APM would probably be a little bit higher too. And I'd like to think that it would be around 1.8 to 1.9 PPS, just to show that, you know, that's possible. I have been 24.8k before with 1.8 PPS, which wasn't the most legit, but I'll tell you it was more legit than this screenshot right here, which is a lot of stalling, I'll tell you that. Anyways, on to the next one. Here is CZ at Behold, the number 2 spot globally, and yes, it is an older screenshot, around 2 years ago, but you know, it's X rank, it doesn't matter, and he was number 2, at below 2 PPS. Now here is the very important detail about this, okay? Very important detail. CZ was not trolling. He wasn't, okay? That's what's absolutely insane. People who know CZ know he can go 1 APP without any trouble. There's no other player in the game who can consistently 1 APP. I say keyword consistently because some have done it, but not consistently. I got to like 0.96 once with a little bit of trolling, but anyways, not important. There have been other players who have gotten close, but nobody has actually gotten to 1 APP consistently. CC is known to be the best player in the game. He was number 2 because, I don't know, Diao or Blarg was above him, but that's really not important. What's important is that he was below 2 PPS at the number 1 spot. And I'd like to say that you can use this as inspiration, but at the same time, he's CZ, okay? He is CZ, like it says in the bottom. He's him, okay? Nobody else is him. No one in the game is as good as CZ. No one. And be it fortunate or unfortunate, this is important to know because having the number 2 spot in the game, number 2 spot isn't a joke. That's better than, I don't know how many players there were at the time, but a lot of players. Right now there's like, what, 50,000, I think, ranked players? But at the time there's probably less. Even though it was 2 years ago and there were less players, it doesn't make a difference much that the top 50, like what was top 10 then would be like top, I don't know, 20, 30 now. Though there has been an update for like 0 PT and TL, so I'm not too certain about that. But regardless, this is the number 2 spot, and it doesn't change much that the fact that he was number 2 with sub 2 PPS is absolutely insane. Yes, he's CZ, that is true, but still, sub 2 PPS, number 2 spot, mind-blowing. And this was legit, this was completely legit, no trolling whatsoever. I do remember at the time people talking about this like it was crazy, and it still is, because technically he could still do it. I want to say with confidence that like right now it would be much more difficult for him to, because right now there's 0 PT, meaning no pass-through. Pass-through is a whole feature I'm not going to discuss, but anyways, there's no pass-through, so it would be more difficult. At the time of pass-through, if you time your attacks right, if you time pass-through on purpose, then you can get to like much more attack. And not only that, but like it leads to higher APM and APP if you time like PC pass-through, for an example, and all the attacks go through. It's like absolutely insane. It happened all the time. Now all attacks cancel each other, so you can't really do that anymore. I think that it would be harder for him, but I think he might still be able to do it, like just barely though. On to the next player. A Janba. Oh boy, a Janba. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling. The thing about a Janba, right, is this is trolling, okay? These stats, they are troll stats. He basically threw a bunch of games. He was like top 10. He threw a bunch of games and got to like 19, while he was going like 1.5 PPS in some of the matches. And other ones he'd go like 3, and other ones he'd go like 2. So it would average about to around like 2. And yes, some of them were legit. He did actually beat people with like 2.3 PPS or even less in the top 20 range, which is insane. Do keep in mind he did match people like a little bit below top 100, a little bit like, you know, on the verge of being top 100, etc. But even so, beating people that are around the top 100 range at like 2 PPS is nuts. Even 2.2 to 2.5 is still crazy, okay? There are players like Quarpio1, who I mentioned later, that do get like this amount of speed, even with like without trolling. Like Quarpy right now I think is 2.3. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about a Janba. He's a big troll. He's known to be a big troll in Tetra League. If you face him, yeah, be prepared for getting trolled, etc. Anyways, on to the next one. Zifdaz. Okay, Zifdaz is a snail. Again, I'm not going to be talking about snails, but this is a current image. This image was taken like right now, like right before the making of this video. The thing about Zifdaz is he is really good at plonking. But he has this type of subcategory of plonking, which is unintentional plonking. To give an extreme example to what I mean by unintentional plonking is if a 4 PPS player plays against a 2 PPS player, granted, the 2 PPS player is going to receive garbage first. Let's say they both do TKI, 4 PPS is faster, the 2 PPS player is going to get the garbage from the TKI. And then guess what? If he gets a quad, if he gets an eyepiece after that TSD, he's going to be able to do a TSD into quad, which is a 10 spike. And that's right off the bat. Because he's at a 2 PPS disadvantage, he has the advantage. You can say, similar to the concept of the advantage of being at a disadvantage. And that's pretty much what Zifdaz is. is he's slow, but he knows how to execute it perfectly. I remember I faced him for the first time in TL, and I swept him. And this is not a flex. I'm saying this because I realized, wait, he's not timing at all. He's just slow. So his speed is genuine. I don't like to think that his 40 lines is actually 1 minute and 7 seconds. But the thing is, his speed is pretty genuine. Because I remember him complaining, like, why am I so bad after I beat him? And I was like, no, you're not. You're really good. It's just really easy to counter you because your plunking involves no timing. And it really doesn't. That's why I call this and like a sub-element of plunking, which is unintentional plunking. That's what Zifdaz has, I believe, I would say. On to the next image. Ting. The thing about Ting is she's around like high ranked, almost top 100. She's been very close to top 100 before, and she always stays around the range of 2 PPS. Now the thing is, Ting is capable of more. So Ting has burst speed, which is very important. I don't think I'll get into that in this video, but burst speed is very important. If you know how to speed burst, but no consistent speed, definitely take burst speed over consistent speed because it's not worth having consistent speed unless you have like, I don't know, 20-second 40 line consistent speed 6.3 because that means you're also capable of faster, but that's not important right now. You can see her 40 lines is 29 seconds, so she's capable of more than 3 PPS. To get sub 20, to get sub 30, I'm pretty sure you need over 3 PPS. So she's capable of that, but she goes 2 PPS pretty consistently. In the screenshot above, you can see Ting says, what's screen watch mean? Abungo, who's my coach by the way, it's unrelated though, says look at your opponent's board. And Ting says never watch, and I think she misunderstood what Abungo said. So Abungo says, I see, thanks. And Ting says, wait. Abungo says, okay. And Ting says, look at your opponent's board when I play. And Abungo says, yes. My English is bad, says I noticed, blah, blah, blah. Ting says something that I can't read, but pretty much what she said is that she always board watches. And then Obungo says, what does always mean? Before every piece, before every attack, and that's a very important detail. Because if you look at your opponent before every piece, that's not good because that's way too much screen watching. But if you look at them before every attack, that's important. And keep in mind, attack means anything. People often don't understand that when you say attack, it doesn't just mean a T-spin double or a quad, it also means down stack. When you skim 3 lines in a row, you get to send 1 line. That's a combo. And when you get to send a combo, you're sending an attack, be it 1 line or not. That 1 line can save you from death if you manage to cancel someone's incoming attack with that. So it's very important, the detail that he said attack. And Obungo said, or do you just look at both boards at the same time, which is kind of funny because I don't know who does that. I'm sure someone out there tries doing that, but it doesn't work very well. Anyways, Ting says before every attack, and that's what's the most important thing is. And Obungo says, okay, I see, thanks. Ting says, okay, GG, and then Ting leaves. And now here's the thing. That's a brief thing about screen watching. I might get into that, but right below at the bottom it says if Ting was in SS, she'd lose to opener main's claim. There's people who have this claim. Very few, but there's still nonetheless people who have this claim. It's not true. Be it an SS or U rank, she would demolish them, okay? She has faced U ranks before because, you know, X rank matchmaking is like that. And let me tell you right now, she faced the U rank opener main once. She beat him like 7-0. Might have been 7-1. It doesn't matter. You opener main U ranks like stand no chance against Ting, okay? Her macro and timing and plugging are insane. There is no beating Ting. And just so you know, Ting is like an absolute master of fundamentals here, like mid-game versus fundamentals, like awareness of your opponent, kind of fundamentals mastery. A lot of players don't have that mastery. Like I personally, I don't really look at my opponent. I barely do, and I'm being honest with you. And I've been to X rank with like 2 PPS range before, but what I do is I have this good game sense intuition. So like if I'm about to attack, sometimes I build up extra if I'm not receiving any attack, so that it cancels, so I always have material to cancel the incoming attack. And if I don't cancel with that attack, what happens is I'll keep upstacking. And as long as I keep upstacking, I'm preparing more attack. So once I receive that attack, if it's a big attack, I'll have to cancel it. If it's a small attack, I'll tank it and then I'll send back an even bigger attack. Usually. If I'm lucky and I don't misdrop or if I don't mess up the attack somehow. Anyways, on to the next image. Here is a short screen watching summary. I'll explain it pretty shortly. Here are 2 players around, like, I don't know, S rank, A rank. I'm not exactly sure what rank this was. If you were to look at you being on the left side, what would you do here? Most people would skim with J since you have no back-to-back, and then you'd send the quad that you have on the garbage on the right side. Or just send the quad and then skim J. But by the way, for those who don't know, it's better to send J first and then send with quad. That'll send one more line. Every combo added to a quad or T-spin double gives +1 attack, which is really important to know, and a lot of people don't know this. Anyways, there are quite a few options here, but the best thing to do would be skimming with J. It depends how you skim with J. You can skim with the J down, or you can skim with the J up. And I think J vertically, like rotating counterclockwise once and dash to right, and then quad is better, because you then have a donation. I don't know if you guys see it, but there is a T-spin double donation. And that really isn't important, but what's best is to, let's just say, you're on S rank, you probably wouldn't see that. So what's the thing about screen watching is, right, you look at your other opponent and you'll be like, wait, he's about to send me a quad. So what would you do? Instead of skimming J and sending the quad, which would, granted, send like an extra line or two, and then if he sends his quad because he's receiving garbage, he doesn't want to top out, then he'll cancel with it. You'll end up sending 2 lines to him. That's not worth it. Let's say he sends you his quad. If you just wait, putting J probably on the far left, which would be best, or skimming J flat on the right. But skimming J flat on the right is questionable. So putting J flat on the far left would probably be best, because after you do that, you can look at your opponent, you'd be like, he's about to send me a quad, and I know exactly what to do to defend this. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the J on the right, wait for yourself to get the attack that he's about to send, and once he does that, you're going to receive 4 lines. 4 lines will go up to about here, and you're going to be A-okay. And you're going to have 4 lines of clean garbage right about here. This is going to be, you have garbage on this column, meaning all of the garbage that he got sent from here, and his next garbage is here, so assuming you haven't canceled anything, you'll get it here, because that's how garbage spawning works, but that's really unimportant. That's not what I'm here to talk about. Garbage seed is something completely different, unrelated to this video. I'm not going to make a video about that, most likely. So, putting J on the left, tanking, waiting for him to send, because he most likely will tank. There's no way he's going to look at your board, because this is around S rank. Nobody looks at other people's boards just to know like what's incoming and then cancel with that. At least it's very unlikely. I'm not saying it's not possible. So, like in higher ranks, when people plonk, they'll see that their opponent is pausing, they'll also pause. That's why you have to be sneaky about it. Either you move around your piece very like in a random order, or you place pieces that keep upstacking, and that's really what CZ does, is what you keep upstacking, and people don't realize that that's what you're doing, and they'll be like, okay, he's playing normally, there's no reason for me not to pause, and I'll just continue. That's what happens to a lot of players. But that's unrelated, and I shouldn't really be giving away all the plonking tips in the world here, because that's not the point of the video. So putting J left, screen watching, seeing that he'll send the quad, you'll be able to then tank it and send down the quad. That sends him 4 lines, and you're receiving 4 lines. Basically pass through, but without the pass through. And once that happens, you'll have so much clean to work with. You can combo, you can do like a 2-wide on the right side, a 2-wide that doesn't cover the incoming garbage, because right now you have like a T residue in the middle of your board on the right side, like right here, which is this little top piece of the T is going to be problematic, because it covers the garbage that's going to be incoming from here, which is on the 4th tile. But that's so unimportant. I'm just saying that what you might receive would be a bit of a problem. So you can see he got this here, and then 2 to the left of that. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have to say for this. Short screen watching summary. Might have yapped it a little bit more than I should have, but as long as you get the idea. There goes the plane. Okay, previous players have achieved X via plunking, inf-DSing, and trolling. Trolling is not a playstyle. This is very important. Trolling is not a playstyle. Some people do troll, but that's beside the point. There have been a lot of TL trollers. I can make a list of TL trollers. It would probably be like, I don't know, 20 or 30 players going from like SS to U rank, to SS to X rank. Some of them are like arguably trollers, etc. I'm not going to get into trolling. However, I will get into plonking and inf-DSing. Playstyles will be talked about in the upcoming slides, along with what playstyle you, xxdion/xyzcpt, should try. That's you right here. This is your stats. I'll get into your stats soon. Here, next, playstyles. Let's get into the playstyles. Plonking, striding, inf-DS, and opener. Here's a graph that I made along with what Kermanism said right down here. Plonking is a strong playstyle, I would say. Striding is also. Inf-DS isn't really strong, but more defensive. And opener is very strong, but has problems. The X is here and this X here. This one is referring to this one, and this one is referring to this one over here. Let's start with plonking. Sub-element of plonking would be macro. Macro and then there's timing. Macro and timing are not the same thing. macro is like intuition. I have a upcoming slide about that I'll get into. But for now, I'll leave macro aside. Timing is knowing when to attack and when to stop. So you're about to receive an attack, sort of like how I mentioned in the previous one. Let me go back. This one right here. If you know like what your opponent is doing, you'll know when to time and when to attack. But if you don't know about anything about your opponent, you won't know that you'll need to send this J first in the quad. You'll just send the J first in the quad. You won't know to have to put like the J on the left or the T here, whatever. You wouldn't know that. That's what's very important. I'll get into that when it comes to the macro. Okay, back to this. Trolling, I kind of call a sub-element of plonking, and I'll tell you why. Let's say there's a D rank, a B rank, or an S rank, and they all try trolling. Would that suddenly make them X rank? No, but guess what? The most trollers in the game that like genuinely troll, I would like to say, are in X rank and U rank. Because it's easier to troll when you're in a higher level, because you can experiment more. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm not really going to get into that. If you want to know more about trolling, I don't know, contact me on Discord at Gavarox. That's really not important, because trolling is barely a sub-element of plonking. I put it here purely out of spite to just mention it and how it works. Opener plonk related to opener, that's this X right here. That's why I didn't put it on opener. And opener plonking is an interesting one. A lot of people, you'll see this, in, especially in U rank and in X rank, there are people who use an opener such as stick spin, SDPC spin, and they'll cancel with their attacks sometimes, and sometimes they'll time their attacks very specifically, especially stick spinners. I see this a lot, and I say a lot with stick spinners. There are people who use stick spin, get to the, like, they do the first TSS, then do the TSD, and then they have the C-spin. And now the C-spin sends like 18 attack, but if you have anything to cancel with, it's useless, literally useless. Why does DT opener send so much? Do you guys know why? If somebody uses DT cannon, right? Usually it sends 11 blinds to the opponent because it's in the opener phase. Usually in A rank, when you see somebody using DT, their opponent receives 11 lines and they go all the way to the top of their board because they're also upstacking. Which is, by the way, something very important. When you downstack a line, you're downstacking one line of yourself and you're going down one line. That's something that xyzcpt mentions in his whole video of the guide to whatever. You can look it up, xyzcpt on YouTube, Chetris tutorial or whatever. You'll find it there. But opener blocking, a lot of people who use like stick spin, once they get to the C-spin, they'll pause and they'll be like, you know what, I'm going to receive garbage, or I'm going to see what my opponent is doing. And this is the only time that a lot of players screen watch, because they're going to see if it's actually worth sending the C-spin of stick spin. And it's so common that I actually fall for it sometimes, and I don't even realize it because some people barely wait. All they're waiting for is an attack. So sometimes that's like in a fraction of a second. You're going to use like TKI, you cancel their TSS, you send 2 lines. You're going to use another TSD from TKI, continuation, to cancel their next TSD, which is A-okay because you both have one back-to-back, so it's going to cancel each other equally. And then they're going to have a C-spin. And what do you have? Another TSD. That's going to send them 5 lines, or actually 6 lines. It's ×3 back-to-back now. And you're sending them another TSD, actually ×2. Anyways, you're sending them a lot of clean, and that's exactly what they want. Even if you used TKI to cancel and give them 2 lines, they can somehow skim that down with J, because the C-spin residue actually leaves a pretty clean board. You have 4 or 5 lines depending on how you skim down, and it's really easy to exit the C-spin residue board state after doing it in stick spin, and that's exactly what leads to having a lot. Some players even tank 2 pieces in stick spin, which, you know, if you're using TKI and you're only doing TSD, or if you're using LST and you're only doing TSD, you're going to be sending a lot of clean, especially if it ends up on the same row. That's what a lot of, you know, stick spin RNG clips show, is that somebody has, like, they're going to send 2 TSD with LST probably, when your opponent is tanking in stick spin, C-spin phase. And what happens when they do this is rarely people get the chance to have a clean well from the top of their board to the bottom. So they'll be at like 18 height, right? And they're going to downstack that with a C-spin. And then you likely have eye pieces after the C-spin residue. It's very likely, because that's how stick spin bag works. And you'll be able to downstack with like 2 quads, especially if you have iron hold. So you have like TTII or TTI hold. Your attack can be like absolutely insane, like legit. That's pretty much what opener plonking is. Most prominent example would be stick spin, is what you're going to find in Tetra League. Anyways, let's move on to striding. Macro striding. Macro striding is an annoying playstyle to face against, and it's not very common. A handful of players use it. My playstyle personally, my coach mentioned, would be macro stride inf DS, which is not here. because, you know, it says there are more combinations, but they are not worth going over as it would take too long. So my playstyle is macro stride inf DS, and basically I macro, I have a sense of macro to some extent. I stride, so I go pretty fast sometimes, like 2.7 PPS, almost to 3 PPS, and I can go 3 PPS, but trust me, when I go 3 PPS, it's horrible, so my average is still like 2.3 or 2.4. So that's what macro stride inf DS is, and I downstack a lot. So basically, I time my attacks. I know when someone's about to send me something, I either cancel it, usually, so that I can downstack more, but I don't always cancel it. And I'll get to that. That's inf DS Plonk, which is, by the way, the worst playstyle. Nobody has this playstyle. I have never faced someone with this playstyle. I'll get to that. Okay, striding also has speed variations. So there are people who have different kinds of speed. Striding really depends on rank, and depends on, well, it depends on a few things. There are different kinds of striders. If you say strider in X rank, you're usually referring to someone who goes like 3.5 PPS. Okay, so like Luminaries, if anyone knows who that is, or Westel, who's 4.7, but Westel's a completely different story. I'm not going to get into Westel. And so let's talk about speed variations for a second. If we're talking about striders, usually you talk about people like Luminaries, etc. But there are other examples of striders that don't actually seem like it. For an example, Top Tester. You might be like, what? Top Tester isn't a strider. He's barely 3 PPS. It's true. He's like top 80 without even being 3 PPS. That's insane. By the way, he has sub 100 APM, and that's exactly why he's a strider. His attack isn't prominent. His attack isn't there. He barely attacks. He does choices that no other X rank would do. Okay, no other X rank would do the choices that he does. It's like he's playing survival in versus. Okay, his attack is completely different, and his stacking methods are completely different from what other people do. He 3-wides a lot. That's one reason. But 3-widing, it lets him allow to cancel like all the incoming attack of your opponent. Usually. You even see CZ 3-wide sometimes, if you pay close attention to CZ replays. He does sometimes 3-wide, and sometimes he 4-wides, and he does side 4-wide for some reason instead of center. I'm getting off topic. Anyways, that's why speed variations can vary in speed. Striders aren't necessarily 3.5 PPS E ranks, okay? Yes, there are 3 PPS E ranks who aren't X ranked, but that's something else. You can be very fast speed, okay? There's a player named Reputation. He's 3.3 PPS, 110 APM, which is better stats than Top Tester, I'm pretty sure. And he's not X rank. He's hard stuck E rank. How does that even happen? I'll tell you. It's because he's striding mindlessly. Top Tester is actually striding with a mind, and that's why he's going slower. You can already put that into sort of like a plonking category, but I would say it's still striding, because he's still going pretty fast. The only pauses are times when he tries to think about things to do. Anyways, that's more or less what speed variations are. If you look at like S-rank striding would be like, I don't know, 2 PPS at best, maybe 1.8. And that's why you say like a strider in S-rank wouldn't be a strider in X-rank. And you can't even put them there because their APM isn't fit there, and their VS isn't fit there. And that's exactly why they don't end up there. Anyways, there's also opener striding. So opener striding, a great example would be Adri 100. For people who know who that is, he's a stick spinner. He's also known as like Sodiopath, I think, or used to be known as that. He's a stick spinner in like the high ranks, so around like top 30, top 20 or so. And I think sometimes he varies, maybe top 40. But anyways, the thing about Adri Pro is he is very annoying to face because he's a stick spin strider. And that's one of the openers. Again, stick spin, prominent example. He uses stick spin, and then very shortly after, he will continue striding at like 4 to 5 PPS. I am not joking. You can look at his replays. He usually misdrops because he's going so fast, but usually at 4 to 5 PPS he continues because stick spin, after the C-spin, he doesn't time it at all. And after the C-spin of stick spin, you have great residue for continuing upstack. And that's exactly what he does. And he does it so fast, he's doing it at like Westel speed, and when you do it at Westel speed, the chances of you getting attacked back are like, wow, very small. They're like nigh limited, or however you say that. So the attacks that he receives are very small because he manages to cancel everything because he's going so fast. And what doesn't get canceled gets sent. And that's exactly why he wins and why he's so high ranked. But now, don't think that people who do that just automatically get X ranked. Yes, it would boost you, it would help you, but he isn't X ranked because of that. He's actually like, you know, top 30, top 40, top 20, etc. because he has mid-game skill too. Mid-game is very important, not just opener striding. On to InfDS. InfDS Plonk, worst playstyle. I'll tell you why. Nobody has this playstyle. There's a certain player, I'm not even going to mention his name for embarrassment. I'm not talking about music, for people who think I'm talking about music. I'm not talking about music. So, the thing about InfDS Plonk is it's someone who's going to time his attacks purposely and InfDS with them. So, like, he's at like the middle of his board. Some players have this type of plonking mindset where they're at the top of their board and they're going to use an attack to cancel incoming attacks so they can get down, so that they can downstack and survive. That's great, but doing that at the middle of the board and at the bottom of your board is literally pointless. Doing it at the bottom of your board is to maintain back-to-back. Doing it at the middle of your board is also to build or maintain back-to-back. But people who do it only to just downstack and break their back-to-back right after are, honestly, okay, you know what, I'm just not going to say it, but something bad. The thing is, nobody plays like this. I have never met a single player in Tetra League or seen a single player in Tetra League who has this. You might find people who have the InfDS and Plonk high stat on Sheetbot, but they aren't InfDS Plonk. There are no true InfDS Plonkers. At least I haven't seen any. And if any do become that after this video, after seeing this, is because they've seen this and they're trolling. It's legit trolling. So that is why I put this in purple. I don't like this. This is not a good playstyle. I wouldn't recommend getting close to this. But InfDS generally is pretty good. Here's InfDS Stride. Now the thing about InfDS Stride, I don't know if you guys know, there's a player named Sam Gawaran. Sam-Gawaran or something. Sam Gawaran. He is an InfDS Strider. Not InfDS Macro Strider. I'm an InfDS Macro Strider. He's an InfDS Strider. See, there's Macro Striding and there's InfDS Stride. InfDS Stride is an interesting one. I forgot to put Opener Stride. Actually, no, this is, I should have put an X here to brown. Anyways, InfDS Striding is when you downstack as much as possible and you're doing it as fast as possible. So you might be like, okay, that's a bad playstyle. It's almost bad as InfDS Plonk. And no, it isn't. And I'll tell you why. If you're trying to go down as fast as possible, and like, even if it may be inefficient, you're still trying to go down, right? And in that instance, when you see like, okay, he just sent me garbage, you don't care what he sends you, and you're going to downstack it as fast as possible. And that's exactly the problem with your opponent not knowing that, because when your opponent sends that to you, and you get like, I don't know, let's say 15 lines, and you're at the top of your board, you have tons of clean, you know decent fundamentals, you're going to be InfDS Striding, so you're going to go really fast, okay? And you're going to, once you're going really fast, you're going to be downstacking, like a lot. Okay? And when you're downstacking a lot, even with all that clean, it's going to be sending a lot of garbage. So at least you're not trying to like troll and stay alive and just make the round go on as long as possible. You're trying to win. You're trying to win, okay? Unlike InfDS Plonkers. That's the idea of InfDS Stride. It's a good playstyle. I wouldn't say it's the best. I'd say anything in the plonking and opener category are probably the best. Striding and InfDS are like the lesser so, but InfDS is important to survive if you want survivability. Opener InfDS is a thing that a lot of SS rank and U ranks have. Is that you're going pretty fast, okay, at the opener phase, but then you get into like mid-game and you're going to slow down a little bit. And I'll get to that with you, by the way. I'm talking about, XDO, I forgot what your name is. And you have something similar, a little bit, like barely, it's barely noticeable, but it's still there. And a lot of players like SS ranks and U ranks, when they get into like the opener phase, they're really good at it. They do it consistently and manage to send like a lot of attack. But after that, they're just InfDSing the entire round. So like, they're horrible at, not horrible, but they're pretty bad at downstack. And they're going to be constantly downstacking, and they won't be able to get out of that because they don't know anything except a lot of opener. And that's exactly what happens with a lot of S ranks that are hard stuck S rank, is they end up in that opener phase, and then once they get into mid-game, they're like stuck. They don't know what to do, and they just try downstacking and downstacking, and they end up usually losing. And the only rounds that they actually win are the ones that end in 5 seconds or 5 to 10 seconds that they win from opener. Anyways, opener, I already put 2 X marks. Those are linked to the other colors. And then there's opener back-to-back. So opener back-to-back, again, are players like Adri Pro. It wouldn't be the same as opener striding, though, because opener back-to-back also sometimes involves canceling. It's a very general term, opener back-to-back. And also it's like what Sheetbot says, what Kerr says below. So opener back-to-back is, let's say, where you have an opener, use it at a decent speed, and then you start building back-to-back. The back-to-back could be canceling your opponent's attack, or it could be sending genuinely normal attack. It doesn't matter. Either one is fine. And that's the thing about opener back-to-back. It's very general. I'm not really going to get into it much, but that's pretty much all I have to say about that. On to the next thing over here. JM Gars Fan 2000 said, what is Plonk InfDS and Stride? Kermanism, then responded, might as well explain it too, because why not? Opener doesn't necessarily have to refer to opener. That's the thing. This is when it comes to statistics. I'm not going to get into statistics like it says in the bottom right, but I will be saying what Kerr said just to explain briefly what it means. But it's highly among players who have decent APP and high APM, but low downstacking stats and VS APM. That means a lot of less downstacking, less efficient, etc. This essentially means that these players are generating a large majority of their offense output with their own pieces and not relying on the opponent's garbage lines much at all. Yeah, so generally opener players have lots of opener capabilities, as in like they know a good arsenal or good portfolio, if that's the word, of openers, but they don't have very good downstack, and they don't rely on their opponent's garbage sent to them a lot either at all. NFDSers, this is the opposite of opener, statistically wise, by the way, not legitimately. It kind of is, though. Anyways, this is the opposite of opener. These players rarely do anything other than downstack their opponent's garbage, and yeah, that's pretty much NFDS stride, I would say, but it really depends, because NFDS is general. It has multiple categories. Their opponent's garbage and have little interest in building any sort of attack of their own. After all, the opponent is sending me free lines, and downstacking garbage is more cheesy, and thus harder to deal with. Why give my opponents all of that free ammo? Those players tend to have low APP, but exceedingly high DS/second, and VSAPM, having and a decent PPS. That is very true. What Kerr said here is factual. Repeating the same thing twice, I'm sorry. I'm legit yapping. Anyways. So he says here, why send all of that free attack to your opponent if you know you can just downstack it? Like, listen, the only way to top out is by getting garbage sent to you, right? So like, if my opponent's going to do that to me anyways, why not just use that garbage that's getting sent to me to downstack? That would be so stupid to not. And that's exactly what Kerr is saying here, and that's pretty much the general idea of what InfDS playstyle is. Plonking. This is a kind of like the defensively minded version of opener. These players may still upstack plenty, and yes, it's true, people who opener tend to plonk a lot too, because, like I said, like with Stickspin, and people who InfDS don't usually plonk as much. Like I said, InfDS plonk, worst playstyle, especially for multipliers. But the main goal is to manipulate garbage using tanking, screen watching, and timing. These are very advanced, by the way. Most people don't screen watch. Some time, but most people don't screen watch. And in order to ensure that the opponent's garbage gets sent to them as clean as possible, these players will then use that clean garbage to counter-spike back one large spike to kill typically. They'll try to kill at least, and if it doesn't kill, they will start preparing a defense. That's usually how it goes. Anyways, these players typically have very high APP, DS per second, and decent VSAPM, but low PPS. That is true. Usually they are slower, and that's exactly why plonking is an ideal playstyle for you to pursue. I think you should get at least a little bit into plonking if you want to have any hope of getting X rank with at least, around 2 PPS. However, if you don't want that, you're going to need to know into, you're going to start needing to think about increasing speed. But we're not talking about that, so let me continue. These players are different than InfDSers, because while they do focus on downstack, they more so utilize it to make big counter spikes, rather than whitting away their opponent little by little. So InfDSers do whit away their opponent by little. They send very small attacks at a time, generally. Again, there are sub-elements or subcategories of it, but generally they don't send much, because they don't prepare much attack, and they're just going to use the attack that they get from their opponent, naturally, not with timing, usually, and they're going to send that back. And they're going to be like, yeah, okay, I can win with this. And it usually doesn't work as much as plonking does. But there are InfDSers and plonkers in the top 100, so I'm not going to get into that right now. Again, also, those are sub-elements. They have mixtures of playstyle. There is no, like, pure InfDSer or pure plonker in the top 100. CZ could be considered a pure plonker, but all those playstyles have different, like, categories and elements from the sub-playstyles of other playstyles. So I'm not going to get into that. Stride. To sum it up quickly, they're very fast players but don't do much else. They're usually like, less efficient, as you will say here. Often this takes the form of 9 or 6-3 or something, even strategies like LST, though that often leads into opener more, both statistically and literally. These players don't focus much on upstack or downstack as much as they do simply getting pieces on the board. It's legit. They see pieces, they're like, must put on board, and that's why they're so fast. Their APP and DS per second tend to be low, with an okay VSAPM, but their APM and PPS and DS second tend to be much higher than the rate stats would suggest. Just by seeing the statistics of Striders, it's not always like that. Their speed is usually higher, but their APM and PPS the APM and VSAPM can often be lower than what it may seem. If you want to ask information more about this, you can go to Kermanism, as this is in the bottom left, and in the bottom middle, Sheetbot is the bot, which you can find in a lot of Tetris-related servers. Just ask them about it, they'll probably tell you where it is. There's usually a bot channel, you can see people using the commands, you copy from them, etc. On to the next image. That one probably took the longest. I want to get into macro a little bit, as I put in this image right here. Macro is the sub-element of plonking. Numoy, the CZ's coach, yes. he taught CZ, well, at least it's rumored he did. It's not confirmed, but it's pretty highly rumored that he did. After CZ giving a generous donation, etc. A lot of people know the story. If you want to go know more about that, you can find it in Kez DeBez's Tetris, Best Tetris Players History video. Macro. Anyways, let's say what Numoy says here. Macro is an umbrella term for an active and passive application too. I'll use intuition and instinct and decision making for now. Intuition X. What types of attacks or techniques do I favor? So like any kinds of setups, etc. At what height do I need to feel threatened? Here's the thing. I wanted to add a little note here for myself. And where the playstyles feel threatened. So people who are in for DS will literally feel threatened at 0 board height. They constantly feel threatened, so they want to downstack as much as possible. They'll make like a single into a double into a single, and then just keep downstacking. Opener mains tend to feel threatened around like 15 height, so like a third, 2/3 height of the board, because they'll be like, you know what, it's not that important. My goal is to send attack, because openers tend to send a lot of attack, so they have like that attack kind of influence, and they'll be like, you know what, it's okay. I'm safe until like 15, 18, and then I don't have to downstack until after that. Now, plunkers tend to not feel a specific threat, but at around half the board, they will try to go down. Try to. I say try to because sometimes it's worth tanking. You can only receive 8 lines at a time, but if you get like 20 lines at 10 height, without canceling material, you won't survive. And especially if you're higher than that, if you're like 18, at 18 height, right? And you have what to cancel with, but they're going to send you a 20 attack, it might not be enough. Even a TSD quad might not be enough. Now, do remember that doing TSD and doing a quad is going down 6 lines, and you're also sending 10 lines. So technically that's 16 lines. You will be able to survive a 20 attack, but that's beside the point. And then you will be getting 4 lines to yourself, which are most likely clean, but that, okay, I'm getting too far into that. That's pretty much that. And Striders tend to not feel too much threat, because, you know, they're going as fast as possible. All they care about is trying to get pieces on the board, like Kermanism said. So they won't care really much about feeling threatened, but at a certain point they will. So let's say, you know, they're going pretty fast. They're around half board height, and they'll be like, you know what, here's a good time to downstack, or maybe they'll be a little bit higher, but they're always trying to downstack, but that's not their main goal. Their main goal is to win and trying to go as fast as possible. That is kind of unrelated to plonking, but I just felt like I'd mention that, just so you can have like a general, you know, more broader view on playstyles and their speeds. What does their board probably look like at this point of the game and after the last exchange? That is something purely from intuition. So he says that later, intuition is basically what techniques you use on autopilot. So like when you're playing naturally, not really focused on the game, which a lot of players do, like majority of players I would say do that. The only time when you're actually focused, surprisingly, would be either plonking, trolling, or maybe opener, because then you have to focus on your timing of the 6-spin or whatever it is that you do. Anyways, what information you can pick up without effectively confirming it, X screen watching. Decision making, X. If this is a good time to peek at their board, that's something you have to, like, you know, make a decision about. Timing. Based off what I should know or send XY garbage, make more or XY. You also need to take in consideration if it will make your board state worse or better. If there's a T-spin double that the overhand covers garbage, it is not worth it usually. Again, do you need to look at your opponent's board? Something to take into consideration. Not a lot of players do that. Based off what I know, do I accept or deny this trade? Yeah. So those are all based on your decision making, based on what you think. So you have to keep in mind that, you know, these often have to do with screen watching, and that could be problematic for a lot of players who are not good at screen watching. So do tend to train that. In short, physique is your IL or body strength or whatever. Technique is what you use your IL or body to do. Intuition is what you consider on deciding / autopilot naturally. Decision making is breaking from autopiloting to make a decision based on actively changing information. So here's the thing about what he just said, is this is already getting more off topic from macro, but he's going more into like the general topic of macro and micro, which aren't really defined, but you can find definitions on Google on like some websites. You can look below. He says, you know, intuition, how you autopilot, etc. These are already less related to Tetrio, but getting more into like more technical stuff. If you want to read that, feel free to pause the video, go ahead and read it. Right now I'll be going on to the next panel. To conclude, okay, we're in the conclusion phase. Discussion about how you can improve based on your current stats. So this is you right here, xyzcpt from Canada, though that is unrelated. Tetra League, 24k.3. 24.3 is pretty good, okay? That's pretty good. That's in, I don't know what, the top 3%? I'm not sure. You have 80 APM, almost 81, 1 PPS pretty much is what you said, and 170 APM. Now the thing is, what's 80 plus 80? Or, 81 plus 81 is 162, 162, yeah? And you have 169. That's not far off from 2. As you can see below at the very bottom in the advanced stats, you have almost 2.1 VS APM. 2.1 I say would be a good benchmark, and if you really want to get more focused into blocking and downstacking, you're going to need higher VS APM. So aim for like 2.1 to 2.2, but don't go much higher than that. And trust me when I say don't go below 2. You can see your opener stat is like almost the highest. Thankfully Plonk is, but that's not that related. A lot of people have normally, Plonk near opener, and it doesn't have much to do with like their actual plonking and opener statistics. So I can see based on your VS score, you do downstack a little bit, but not too much. You can see by the VS APM. The DS piece is not a statistic that's too important to focus on. Like, it's okay, but it's not that important. And you can see here your DSPS is 0.16, which is okay. It's decent. It's a little bit below average, I would say, but I don't really know the U rank average that much, especially like the high U rank average. Personally, I'd say like U rank is split into like 2 parts, 24k and like 23k, but that's unrelated. Your attack per piece is 0.6. That's okay, but not that good. I'd say you should strive for 0.7. If you want to become a plonker and infDSer, like a little bit, use elements from plonking and infDSing to improve your playstyle, you're going to want an APP of around 0.7. And don't make stats your goal, because if you do that, you're going to be too focused on stats and you're not going to have any like ambition towards the rest of the game. And you don't want that. You want to get higher rank, etc. APP's DS piece is not that important. If you have anything around like above 0.8, you're good, and you're around 0.79, you're fine. Trust me, you're fine. Opener and Plonk are around the same. Stride and Infias are around the same. They're both lower than Opener and Plonk. That's pretty good. I see your area is 567. Aim for about like above 600. I'd say that's pretty good. Yeah, TR is good. ESTTR. Ignore ESTTR and accurate ESTTR, okay? These are estimated stats. They're not very accurate. They favor efficiency and speed. I wouldn't really recommend looking at them. Garbage efficiency is 0.2. I'd say that's not too good. 0.3 should be like, dream goals. 0.5 is like peak, and 0.1 is bad, or anything in the 0.1 range. So 0.2 is good. Try to keep it around this, maybe a little bit higher. Cheese index, 25 is, it's okay. Like, you're sending a decent amount of cheese. Now, cheese index is an interesting one, because cheese index is very versatile. You look at someone like CZ, his cheese index is probably negative, because he sends so much clean. People who send more cheese tend to have higher cheese index, obviously. Is cheese index good or bad? No, it's neutral. It really depends. It depends what kind of person you're playing against, so don't focus on that stat too much. You should know, based on what kind of player you face, of what to do, whether to send cheese or clean, but that's already based on, Numoi, intuition, etc. On to the next panel. Here's other statistics of your account. You can see on the far left, you mostly skim singles. By the way, I don't know if you've known, but skimming singles sends nothing. Now, the thing is, not entirely, because skimming combos does send. And you have 46% singles. That's almost more than half of your entire things. I can see that based on how you have 0.36 all clears, you do send all clears. And the thing about that is, that must be from opener. Unless it's mid-game, that would be nice, but it's probably from, opener. And, like, I don't know, PCO, whatever other opener that leads into PC, which is, like, literally every opener. So, the thing is, well, yeah, assuming you don't get sent garbage. Anyways, back to the topic. There's players like Sam Gawaran, who I mentioned earlier, who their all clears are legit 0% because they don't do all clears. They're a stride infDSer, and they have no all clears. And I think their T-spin triples are also 0%. So you don't see those on the line clear distribution graph at all. And thankfully, you do have those. You do T-spin triples, a surprising amount, actually, 51. So you do something, and that's pretty impressive. I see you do T-spin doubles, though, more than you do T-spin singles. And for building a lot of back-to-back, it's best to do more T-spin singles at the start and then continue to T-spin doubles. So I imagine you don't really use SDPC. I don't know for sure, but SDPC does lead into, it's basically equally distributed TSD, TSD, TSS, TSS. It starts with TSS, goes into 2 TSD. I'm fairly certain. No. It depends. It depends how you finish the last part. Anyways, it could be TSD or TSS. So I imagine you don't use something like that if you have 592 D-spin doubles throughout your 10 TL sets. Meaning it's likely you use something more like LST or any other opener. I haven't checked your replay, so I don't really know. But if that's the case, LST is good. Try using it to time your attacks more. That would be important. T-spin singles, and yeah, I see you use less quads than T-spin doubles, which is interesting. You can see on the right side here, there's another graph for eyepiece efficiency and stuff like that, but I didn't copy those because this is pretty much all I want to show you. Your mid-game APM is 76, but you look at your opener APM is 82, so you're definitely using some kind of opener. Like I said previously in the stats, your opener is around 0.5, something like that, 0.53. So you're definitely using opener to some extent. And I wanted to get to that. Your main PPS is 2.1, and your mid-game PPS is 2.08. That's about pretty average. But then your opener PPS is 2.2. So your opener is definitely going faster, and you have some kind of capability within that opener. If your APM is 78, your mid-game APM is 76, but your opener APM is 82, then something about your opener having more speed and APM is you're definitely more keen in opener than you are in mid-game. Yes, I'm sure there are players out there who have larger APM, mid-game APM, and mid-game PPS than they do opener, because in opener they probably just do nothing. So, barely anyone actually does that, but I'm just saying, there are players who do have like higher mid-game APM and mid-game PPS, not necessarily because they do nothing at the start, but it could also be due to plunking. So, yeah. So if these are your opener, you might want to work on turning down the opener, but I'll get to that after. Which is right here. To conclude, downstack. I would like to recommend Cheese Race. Can be found on J-Stress. Your downstack is lackluster, which is like a dull, and can be improved on further. Only based on stats. I am saying purely based on stats. I have not seen your actual mid-game downstack, but I would imagine it's pretty much like what I see based on the stats. Stats don't lie, usually. It depends how severe it is. In your situation, you're asking about 2.1 PPS, so I imagine, it's around this. And I would like to recommend Cheese Race 100 lines specifically, because that's the one that should be practiced. The other ones are okay. 18 lines, like nobody plays. 10 lines is good for other practices, but I'm not going to get into those because I haven't checked your replays and I haven't done a proper review. It's like a free coaching session. I'm not going to add on all the details. Opener. If you haven't already, learn a decent arsenal of openers. It's always good to have an opener to use with every bag. For example, knowing just MKO, PCO, and SDPC covers all bags if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. I'm not certain. And they're all good in their own right because they all have different paths. PCO can be used for extended PCO. PCO can also be used for just PC. MKO can be used for waste TMKO or normal MKO, etc. And SDPC also has several paths depending on what you want to do, and is generally used for like a PC type opener, which is similar to PCO. MK is less used for PC, but it does have like 3 PCs at the start. They're like, I don't know, a decent amount. Anyways. But try avoiding learning any fast kill openers so that you don't end up relying on them. I wouldn't recommend TD openers like MS2 or Gamu, because I wouldn't say they're fast kill openers, because they're easy to counter with TSS, but they do have their disadvantages and advantages. I just wouldn't recommend TD. If you want to learn TD, go for it. Why not? But yeah, just my personal preference. Such as stick spin, SDPC spin, or extended SDPC spin. The thing about TD openers is there's this player called, what's his name? Oh man, I forgot. It's like in the top of my eye. I can't remember though. Anyways, this player, he's really good at plunking TD. I think it's Keth Sopan. It might be Keth Sopan. No, it was somebody else. Anyways, somebody who is like between X rank and U rank, and he plunks TD opener all the time. If Silaris is watching this, he knows what I'm talking about. So this player is really good at plunking TD, but it usually doesn't end up that well because he tries to plunk it, right? But what if you just wait? You're going to end up getting that TD and he wants to kill you, so he will send that garbage and you'll just be able to send it back. So he's pretty bad at mid-game plunking. I haven't seen a mid-game plunk like at all, just TD. So that's why I don't recommend TD. You might rely on TD plunking, etc. Yeah, such as stick spin, SDPC spin, or extended SDPC spin. Those are all really fast kill openers, aside from extended SDPC spin, because that one takes a long time to build, but the payoff is really nice. DPC is optional. You can do what you want. Choose to learn it, don't choose, whatever. Not viable for VS unless you're really fast. You need to be like 3 PPS minimum to have DPC working like well in high U rank or in X rank, unless you time. And that's something else. But I do recommend timing, so maybe look into it. Anyways, and see how we're talking about lack of speed here. I wouldn't recommend it. That's what I'm saying. Main things to know. Yep. On to the next one. I recommend watching pro players and how they play. Good examples would be Tink704, Quarpio1, QMK. If people like QMK are too fast for you, so like I watch CZ sometimes, but he plays at 4 PPS. So if they're too fast for you, then slow down the replays to like 0.5 speed, 0.25 if you really need to. A good tip, by the way, that I'd like to say is if you're watching the replay and you see something like really good, and you're like, what are they about to do? Pause the replay, be like, you know what, I'll do this, and then look at the replay and see if they do the same choice or if they do something else. That's a really good tip for improving on intuition, thinking about what you want to do next. But right after that, you should play the TL set, so like you have it engraved in your mind that that's what you want to do, and that you don't just leave it out to like knowledge left to waste is not good. That's what I'm saying here. So don't make it like your main thing to watch pros, because without knowledge, putting knowledge into action, it is nigh meaningless. Yep. Here are the three players, QMK, Quarpy, and Ting. As you can see by QMK stats, he is not that fast compared to the people around his speed. He also doesn't have sub 20. And you look at Quarpy's 2.3 PPS, like I said earlier. QMK is an interesting one because you see, QMK is really good downstack. If you want to watch QMK, look at him for his downstack. If you want to watch Quarpy, he's very good at all spins. He's very good at, not just all spins. His downstack is phenomenal, and his knowledge of like where to put things, I'm not sure how to describe it, I'm sure there's a word for it, is also very good. And then there's Ting, who has fascinating screen watching, board watching, and VS, macro, timing fundamentals. The thing about QMK, by the way, I just wanted to add on, is his downstack is very good, but he's doing it at high speed. Sometimes it doesn't look like it's good. So you'd really have to like, you know, slow down, think about what he's doing to realize why it's good. Sometimes you even pause for a few seconds, be like, why is he doing this? And then see what he does next and be like, okay, that's why he's doing that. Or be like, that's not why he's doing that. I don't know why he's doing that. And just don't understand what he's doing. And that's completely fine. I watch pros sometimes, I don't get what they're doing or why they do it, but it ends up working out for them. But usually because these players have at least some sense of screen watching, they'll do it, you know, differently. Anyways, that's about it. Goodbye. That's all. Thanks for watching.